All right, buckle up, because today we're diving headfirst into a 15-year-old Bitcoin mystery that just resurfaced in a big way.
Yeah, it's a big one.
5 Bitcoin wallets, untouched since the absolute dawn of cryptocurrency, suddenly sprang back to life.
And it's not just that they woke up, it's when they woke up, how much they're worth now, and all the questions they bring up about the early days of Bitcoin.
Exactly. This is like finding a dusty old treasure map in your attic, except the treasure is millions in Bitcoin.
Millions.
We're digging through articles, we're looking at blockchain records, trying to understand who could be behind these wallets and what their sudden activity could mean for Bitcoin.
I mean, these wallets give us a glimpse into a time when most people hadn't even heard of Bitcoin. They were actively mining back in January of 2009.
That's barely any time after the very first block was mined.
Right. Weeks. Back when Bitcoin was this tiny blip on a few tech forums. It's wild to think those digital coins, basically worthless back then, would one day be worth millions.
It really is. It makes you appreciate just how far Bitcoin has come, from a fringe experiment to a global financial force.
And the fact that those wallets just sat there untouched for so long, it's like someone paused time and just now decided to play again.
And these weren't just any wallets. We're talking a total of 250 Bitcoin.
Which, just to be clear, is
A cool $15.9 million today. So to really understand this, we need to go back to 2009, to the very beginning.
back when the world was still reeling from the financial crisis. That was the backdrop against which Bitcoin emerged.
This radical new idea for a digital currency, free from banks and governments. And at the center of it all,
The enigmatic Satoshi Nakamoto.
to this day, nobody knows for sure who or what Satoshi was.
A single person, a group of brilliant minds. We may never know.
And yet, Bitcoin endured. It started to build a community, a network of believers.
People who saw the potential of this groundbreaking technology.
And somewhere within that early community, the owners of these 5 wallets were quietly building their Bitcoin fortune.
They were in on the ground floor, and they had faith.
So we've got this digital mystery box, right? 5 wallets from the Stone Age of Bitcoin. Suddenly they're back online, millions of dollars.
And of course, everybody's thinking the same thing.
Satoshi's back.
Right. Like the Bitcoin boogeyman just popped out of nowhere. This Cohen Telegraph article, it talks about all this crazy speculation, people digging through old hard drives, even like time traveler theories.
I mean, can you imagine? What if it really was Satoshi? We're not just talking about the price of Bitcoin going nuts.
Oh, it'd be way bigger than that.
This would turn the whole idea of Bitcoin upside down.
Bitcoin was supposed to be decentralized, right? Nobody in charge. Satoshi comes back, even if they don't do anything but move their Bitcoin. Suddenly there's a leader, someone to follow or fight against.
It would be total chaos. But the kind of chaos that can change everything.
Every move scrutinized, people trying to figure out what it means, the whole crypto world waiting to see what happens next.
It's kind of exciting to think about.
Though you have to be realistic, there's no proof it's Satoshi. Zero.
Right, right. But speaking of big names, one of the articles we found mentioned someone you might recognize. Hal Finney.
Ah, Hal Finney. Now, there was a true visionary.
He was way ahead of the curve. One of the very first believers in Bitcoin.
Didn't he receive the first ever Bitcoin transaction?
That's right. Directly from Satoshi.
It really shows you how much Satoshi trusted and respected the guy.
So if anyone from back then was sitting on a mountain of Bitcoin, it would make sense for it to be Hal Finney.
Yeah, but he passed away in 2014.
All right. Which leads to the million-dollar question. If it wasn't Satoshi and it wasn't Hal Finney, how do we even begin to figure this out?
That's where things get really interesting. That's where we dive into the world of blockchain analysis.
Like CSI,
Yeah,
blockchain.
exactly. Every Bitcoin transaction ever made is recorded on this permanent ledger, right?
Yeah.
Everything's out in the open.
So you could, theoretically, just follow the money. Like digital breadcrumbs leading back to the owner.
Yep. And there are people, blockchain analysts, whose entire job is to do just that. They connect the dots, looking for clues, anything that could point to who owns the wallet.
So then they'd eventually find a name, an address, right?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Because as good as blockchain analysis is, it's not perfect. There are ways to cover your tracks, to make it much harder to connect those transactions to a real person.
So it's like a game of cat and mouse then, between staying anonymous and trying to crack the code.
Exactly. And in this case, whoever owns these wallets, they're doing a pretty good job of staying hidden. For now, at least.
Okay, so maybe we'll never know for sure who woke up those sleeping Bitcoin giants, but still, the fact that it happened after all this time, it makes you wonder, what else is out there? What other secrets are buried in the blockchain just waiting to be discovered?
That's the beauty of it, right? Even after all these years, Bitcoin can still surprise us.
So we've got this real-life crypto puzzle, this blast from Bitcoin's past, shaking things up in the present. But let's take a step back for a second. Why should this matter to someone who's just starting to learn about Bitcoin?
Because it shows you something that often gets lost in all the technical stuff and the ups and downs of the market. Bitcoin, even with all its complexity, it's a human story.
It's about taking risks, challenging the system, that whole idea of anonymity, and the possibility of changing everything.
Right. And in this case, it's a story about patience. These people, whoever they are, held onto those wallets for 15 years.
They wrote out all the craziness, ignored the fear of missing out.
And they just watched as Bitcoin went from a fringe thing to a global phenomenon.
Imagine the willpower that took to not sell, especially in those early years when Bitcoin was still trying to find its footing.
It makes you wonder, why cash out now? After all this time, why make a move?
Yeah, what changed? Is it as simple as it's finally worth enough to sell? Or could it be something more, some kind of strategic play?
Or maybe, just maybe, it's a message. Tell everyone in the crypto world, like a reminder from way back that Bitcoin's not done yet.
Almost like saying, hey, remember us? We were here at the beginning, and we're still here watching. It's exciting and kind of spooky at the same time.
Definitely. It reminds us that we're still in the early days of the Bitcoin story. We can analyze it, track the transactions, make guesses about who's behind it all, but ultimately it's the actions of individuals that will shape what Bitcoin becomes.
Just like it always has, it makes you wonder, what comes next? What other mysteries are hidden in the blockchain, just waiting to be discovered?
That's what's so great about all of this. It's always intriguing, always changing, and yeah, always a little bit mysterious. And as we've seen, sometimes those mysteries come back to life in the most unexpected ways.
Definitely keeps you on your toes. So here's something to think about. If you were in their shoes, sitting on a fortune from the dawn of Bitcoin, what would you do? Cash out quietly and disappear? Or use that wealth to make a splash? It's a question we may never know the answer to, but it's a fascinating one to consider. And on that note, we'll leave you to ponder the possibilities. Until next time, keep exploring.